This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight from Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia, we welcome you to continuing coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. Tonight, round number 6 going to take place. David Schildhouse here on the call, along with my partner in the booth, Taylor Burris, the Windy City Wizard himself, Cisco Scaramuza, our producer, bringing us to you. And we say hello and thanks for joining us wherever you are joining us from. TB here at Virginia International Raceway, a very technical racetrack, one that, well, you're pretty personally familiar with, so I'll be relying on you heavily to give your expert analysis of what these drivers are going to be looking at here tonight. But a long racetrack, over 3 miles in length, 17 corners, or 20 turns, I guess, depending on how you count them. That means a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong.
It is most definitely indeed. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to one of the most beautiful race courses in all of North America, Virginia International Raceway. This track will provide a lot of technical, precise precision for drivers on this race circuit. From corners such as the first corner, the horseshoe, we'll see a lot of drivers go off course, to, of course, probably one of the most famous corners at Virginia International Raceway, the roller coaster. Drivers will have to be so precise and make sure they pinpoint the accuracy of that track to where they could possibly come home with a checker flag. Of course, with a driver like Michel Levesque, who is up at the top of the leaderboard with the championship, it's going to be tough to say who will come out on top tonight.
Drivers on track right now. 2 minutes left in qualifying, or no, I should say about halfway through qualifying, Taylor. So while we have a moment, let's take a look at the points, how they come in tonight. It's been, well, basically it's been a one-man show, but how's everything shaken up?
Well, looking at the points right now with, of course, William Levesque at the top of the leaderboard, John Koch is sitting in that second position, though, quite comfortably with about a 10-point lead over Matthew Kikas. And then, of course, Michael Polasek is right behind him, sitting in fourth position. And John Malia finishing up the top 5, tied with him with Leif Peterson. But looking throughout the rest of the field, it's pretty much a runaway for pretty much the top 2 in points. And it had to be a big upset or mistake for Levesque and John Koch to be able to lose those positions in the points with only a few races left in the season.
And getting into the twilight of already the second season, of course, I had the great honor of being a part of season number 1 here for the PCA. And this is my first opportunity to check out season number 2. And Taylor, it feels like so much has changed. Certainly some of the names that we got accustomed to seeing in season 1, not here. Some new names have come in for season 2. And Levesque being one of them, who just is knocking them off at a rapid pace. Some of these guys who've been around for both seasons got to be wondering what they got to do to get themselves to victory lane. And tonight, I think, is a good opportunity when you look at this racetrack. Not to say Levesque is going to make a mistake, but he's only human, just like the rest of them. So when you're one of those guys who gets so sick of seeing the same name in victory lane, you push a little bit harder, you try and find that extra 10th or 2. But when you push harder, ultimately what happens? You start making mistakes yourself. So from behind the wheel as a driver at this racetrack, what are these guys going to have to do to make sure over the course of the next hour while they're racing that they're not only keeping pressure on Levesque to keep him honest, but they're also elevating their game, but not past the point of where they're wrecking themselves?
Well, one opportunity that these drivers may consider is pit strategies. We saw a couple of rounds ago at Daytona International Speedway, the likes of Leif Peterson able to do a little bit of pit strategy to help him further his way up in the running order. And it did work out for him for a time being. We may see drivers pulling that same strategy before the night is over with. And then, of course, those are really the only matters of things we could see for drivers, because I'm sorry, William Levesque is just by far one of the greatest talents we've seen this whole season. No one has been really able to put the pressure on him for the entirety of the race. We may see some drivers try something at the start, but with that long distance and that long run that we have here, Leves just is able to pull away lap after lap after lap.
So I'm said at the top of the show, Taylor, you have some personal experience here at this racetrack. From what you've seen in the real world, watching cars go around here, what are the strategies, or what are the guys who really get around here well? What are they doing? What are they attacking one specific section of the track? Because again, this is a very big racetrack and a lot of turns. So do you try and play it conservative in one area and really attack in another? What's the strategy that the fast guys really seem to employ here?
Well, a lot of the faster guys do go for the attack at the beginning of the race. We may see a lot of action at the start of this race going into turn one, the horseshoe, a very difficult corner if not set up properly to where you could easily go off track. But if you make the right moves, you can easily get up in front of your competition before you get to the second or third corner, such as NASCAR, and before you make the long run down Snake. Now, we also see some drivers making some good passes into Oak Tree, which is about turn 11 and 12, to set up for a good run that back straightaway before you get up the roller coaster. That section of the course is where you're going to have to be the most patient, because you have to be very brave to take that corner too wide, because it's very easy to run off course and end up in the tire barrier before your day even begins. And we have seen time and time again, not just in the sim racing, but in professional racing and amateur racing, drivers make those mistakes on just lap one. So this hour-long race, drivers are going to have to be so careful to make sure they put their car in the right position to at least make it through lap one.
With about 3 minutes or so left in qualifying, we'll transition to take a look at, and you'll watch this playing in the background. We had an interview scheduled with our very own Dewey Kang to hear his thoughts, but ask him about these videos that he makes. You can find him on YouTube, videos that he makes about the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. And we wanted to get his insight on how he learned how to make these videos and really what drove him to do that. But as you see playing now, he has a very artistic talent, obviously, with taking the race replays and highlighting our great drivers in this series. And it's always fun, Taylor. I always enjoyed, I've been around sim racing a long time. I always enjoyed seeing people who took the opportunity to use their creative side off the racetrack to make it feel a lot more realistic and bring some attention to the drivers. And sometimes you see yourself on one of these videos and you say, hey, there's me. That's really cool. Here's that thing that I did. And you can share that with other people. And so for this opportunity for Dewey Kang to share this with the rest of the community is pretty cool.
It is. It's a great opportunity for him to showcase the talents of all the drivers throughout the season. And I got to say, this season here with the Porsche Club of America, for the races that I have had the honor of calling, have put on some great shows. And as we continue seeing some of the highlights, I mean, you look at that, we see 2, 3 wide action throughout many parts throughout the race, and just puts on a great show for the fans and all who love all things Porsche.
I always know that, as a race car driver, we always remember the cool moments that we have in a given race. And if we know that somebody in the field is either somebody who makes films like Dewey does, or is being broadcasted, you always hope that you do something that's cool and not something that's embarrassing. And we've seen our fair share of both of those, I think, in this little highlight reel. Some amazing saves, some intense and great racing, and a few things that some guys probably would rather forget as well. But that's all part and parcel with how sim racing goes. And I think that's, again, one of the cool things about this community, sim racing as a whole, where you have so many creative people. Yeah, they're great race car drivers, but they can also take the other side of things and make a great production out of it as well. And again, for Dewey Kang, unable to get him up into the booth here tonight, but providing these great videos that you're seeing right now of some of the highlights that we've seen here already through the first 5 races of this season, and some very memorable moments. Again, usually the same guy out front and of all of it, but again, a big thanks to Dewey Kang for sharing his artistic talent here. And you can see the link there at the bottom, simracing.pca.org. You can always find more information there. That is the home, of course, of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. As we transition back to the track here at Virginia International Raceway, a beautiful overhead shot. You get an idea as we look at Google Earth and we zoom in from way out in outer space right here into Alton, Virginia, and you see you get a sense of how big, Taylor, how massive this racetrack is.
It is. It's one of the biggest tracks here on the East Coast, and just imagining just having the opportunity to drive on this track is a very humbling feature. I have actually had the chance to take my car out there on that track for a couple of laps, and it's very difficult. It's amazing to see the talent that these drivers, whether it be on sim or in the real world, able to negotiate this track, as we're now getting ready to take a look at our starting lineup.
Indeed, qualifying is complete. Cars starting to hit the grid, so we'll take the opportunity to look at how they will line up for tonight's race. And of course, we'll start up front with the Fast Track Sims Pole Award winner. Going, of course, to the one and only William Levesque. No surprise there, has won the pole for tonight's race and gets bragging rights along with $50 courtesy of Fast Track Sims. If you're not familiar with Fast Track Sims and the high-quality simulator cockpits they produce, visit them at fasttracksims.com for more information. So William Levesque will start from pole. John Cope will be to his outside in the second position on the front row. Leif Peterson in third, Michael Polasek in fourth, Jason Lisner from fifth, James Patak in sixth, Christopher Pye is in seventh, John Malia in eighth, Matthew Kikas ninth, and Michelle Levesque will round out the top 10.
Starting in the 11th position will be Kenny Brown, followed by Mark Hughes in the 12th position. Carlos Lopez will be starting in 13th with Joseph Steifel in 14th. Jonathan Schum will be starting in the 15th position with Dewey Kang in 16th. Michael Evans will start in the 17th position with Brett Holmes in 18th. Charles Yao will start in 19th, and rounding out your top 20, Jonathan Waltman.
21st position will belong to Cameron Leslie. Clifton Lipple will be to his outside in 22nd. Bruce Robinson will roll off from the 23rd spot. It'll be Jake Steinbrink in 24th, Michael Neiden in 25th, Matthew Mitchell in 26th, and Lane McNeil will round out this 27-car field as they make their one and only pace lap around Virginia International Raceway. Taylor, what's going through these drivers' minds right now?
Trying to find their braking points, trying to see who is around them, trying to make sure also that they give each other plenty of room going into turn one. We've seen many accidents going into that corner, so drivers just giving each other enough room to make it at least through the first corner of today's race, and also trying to find out what they can do to gain on their competition in the point standings. Not a lot of races left in the season, so drivers are going to have to do everything they can to work their way up through the points before the season is over.
Of course, as you see tonight's race summary here from Virginia International Raceway, estimating 35 laps to be completed depending on the overall pace of the leaders. We are doing the full course layout. They do have to make one pit stop before it's going to be all said and done. Beautiful day here in Sim, partly cloudy, 77 degrees, at track temperature at 97 degrees, so should have those tires nice and warm and sticky for these guys to hoof it around this racetrack. Taylor, a lot of back and forth left and right complexes like they're going through right now. These corners are very deceiving. You feel you can carry a lot of speed through here, and even with hot tires, sometimes you can overestimate just how much grip you have.
Yes, we will see that, especially going up to turn 10, the South Bend. They're just about to approach that right now. That is one of the most deceiving corners probably on the racer. You feel like you could take it flat out, but too much speed, you can end up getting caught up in the grass and sending your car down through the bottom of the hill before you get to the oak tree. So drivers are going to have to be so careful to just let the throttle breathe, as you see right there. There they go through the South Bend. That's just so tempting to go full flat out, but you got to back it off just a little bit to set the car up for the famous circuit corner at VIR, of course, Oak Tree. Of course, the Oak Tree is no longer there in the real world, but we still get to see the glorious tree here on iRacing.
What do you think? You want to wager a little friendly bets that somebody gets into that Oak Tree tonight?
I say yes, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll say at least 2 people might get into that car tonight, or that tree tonight.
Oh, that's a fair point. Let's hear from the fans watching on the iRacing Esports Network. Put a yes if you think that we're going to see a driver end up hitting that protective wall around that tree. Somebody trying to take that tree down to make it match the real-life counterpart. I hope we don't see anybody go off in there, but I mean, you've been around sim racing long enough, you know anything is possible, and race car drivers will find just about anywhere to wreck their car as we get through the second half of this very long pace lap. Thankfully, we only have to do one of those here tonight. Drivers making their final preparations, and we're happy to have everybody along here with us for what should be a very entertaining hour of racing. The real question, at least on my mind, and I think on the minds of some of the others out there, can anybody go up there and challenge William Levesque, put him in a position where he makes a mistake and doesn't find himself in victory lane? That is really going to be the key here. Perhaps it'll be someone like a John Cope who has the best opportunity to do that here tonight. Only he knows he's got to make a good break. Pace car makes the hard right-hand turn, field in the hands of William Levesque. We're happy you're here for the penultimate race of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. Green from Virginia International Raceway. Levesque with a great getaway down into turn one. He is not going to be under pressure at all. Everybody trying to get single file for the first time into one.
As there are a little bit of side-by-side between Leif Peterson and Michael Polisek for that battle for third position as they come out of the horseshoe into turn two and into the NASCAR bend. They start to single file out. Closest battle would have to be between James Patak and Jason Lisner, who tries to look as they come out of the NASCAR and make their way into turn four, the left hook.
Lisner trying to hold on as best he can. His number 92 doing a good job as we ride on board.
Contact! Joseph Stiefel late braking in there, but was able to control the car. I think a little contact, but continues on, losing a lot of positions though.
Now, that's going to be a story that we see here a lot tonight, as there is an absolute scramble further in the back of this field. Joseph Stiefel really struggling with that car. I think he took a lot of damage and can't get that Porsche up to speed the way that he needs to. Able to roll on now underneath the bridge, but he is way behind, really far down. He's basically last at this point, back in 26th. So a tough opening lap for Stiefel. Not the sort of start that you want to have there with an hour-long race, but them's the brakes as they go through the oak tree for the first time. I don't see anybody grazing it there too closely, so at least one lap we've avoided somebody going up into the tree. But again, it's going to be all William Levesque out in front, already opening up that gap by about 0.8 of a second over Cope right now. Just a clean, smooth entry into these corners. I think that's what makes him so good.
Yeah, he is by far one of the greatest drivers we've seen on the service right now with the GTE cars. I mean, world championship contender in the GTE series, and just showing how dominant he can be. Looking forward to seeing how he is able to continue managing here at VIR as they come out of Hogpen down the front straightaway to complete lap one here at the 1 hour race.
So it's going to be William Levesque out in front over Koch. Peterson there in third. Polisek and Lisner round out the top five. As we take a look at these cars go around this racetrack, it's such a narrow racing surface. That's another thing that stands out to me, Taylor, is it's not a necessarily a wide racetrack. We've been to some other tracks that are a lot wider. Of course, Circuit of the Americas comes to mind as we ride on board again with Jason Lisner. But you see how narrow this racetrack is at VIR. It doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to get up alongside a guy with these twisting corners that you seem to find every 50 feet or so. It always seems like you're changing direction. So you really have limited opportunities. You really got to take your time and set up that pass.
Yes, you do. On this with the iRacing updates, unfortunately not on this track right yet, but this track is showing that it is difficult. You can maybe put it too wide on some parts of the track, but you cannot make it work like through here through Oak Tree. It's very difficult to go too wide through here. You have to back it off and go single file. But once you get onto this back straightaway, that's when you'll start seeing drivers trying to slipstream and slingshot around their competition, taking it too wide as Matthew Kikas is working his way up.
Right there behind Michelle Levesque, this fight for 9th and 10th. Kenny Brown not too far out the rear from Kikas himself, so a little three-way scramble. Kikas looks to have a bit of a toe here. You were talking about, Taylor, these long straightaways, this back straightaway and the front straightaway long enough where the draft can come into effect. Kikas pulls up, shows the nose to the right-hand side, but nothing doing. Levesque covers the spot well. Kenny Brown closes in from behind. So you see you get a little bit of a toe, but if you get out of Oak Tree really, really well, that can make or break a lap for you, really giving a good opportunity to set up that pass. Kenny Brown showing us the battle out front as you see Kikas and Levesque out the windshield. Lap number 2 in the book, starting lap number 3 already. And again, on pace for about 35 laps here tonight. It's going to be Kikas making another look to the inside, just not close enough.
He has to find a way. He's going to try to take the outside lane, but that won't make it work. He's got to be careful to make sure the car does not get washed up to where it clips the grass and sends him into the grass. So he's going to have to back off just a little bit as they come into NASCAR and now work their way up through the left hook. Still nowhere for Kikas to get by the Levesque as they're now making their way up to Snake.
And sometimes on these tracks, Taylor, you just got to fall in line and follow the guy in front of you and try and size them up at a spot where you think you're a little bit stronger or get on the brakes a little bit later. These Porsche 911s are really, really good, or 991, I should say, apologies. The Porsche 991 RSR, really good on the brakes, but even they have their limits. You push it too hard, you're going to overshoot your braking zone. You're going to be sailing off into the grass or into the Armco. As again, this battle continues between Levesque and Kikas around to Oak Tree. Kikas trying to swing it wide and get a good run off the corner, but I think Levesque did a good job himself. We'll see if the draft plays in this time down the back straightaway like it did a lap ago and give Kikas an opportunity to take that 9th position away. Just doesn't seem he's close enough.
No, he did not get a good exit out of Oak Tree, so he's trying to get a run, but it's going to be a little too late before they get to the uphill part of the roller coaster. Then back down it again. Levesque doing a great job of just plotting the car in the right positions to keep Kikis behind him now, as they're now going through Hogpen. Real easy corner to make sure to overshoot it, but it's just a great job for Levesque as he comes off of Hogpen down the front straightaway. Has a nice little gap over Kikis as Brett Holmes now is coming up.
Fighting for 15th with Jonathan Shum. Charles Yao not too far out the back bumper as well. Shum out front again in the 15th position, that number 97. And Holmes in hot pursuit there for 16th. This has been a good battle for the past couple laps. Everything's stringing out for the most part. No change up front. William Levesque out in front by about a second. But here comes Brett Holmes trying to get some sort of advantage, as we've seen drivers struggle to get into these braking zones and make a pass. The car is just not doing what they want at this point. Kikis now makes a mistake further up the racetrack. Seen fall way back from the battle that we saw him. He's back in the 12th position now, Taylor. So there's one of those mistakes you can't afford to make. Lucky to get away with it. It's only going to cost him a few positions.
Yeah, just overshot going into NASCAR a little bit right there, and he was able to just get loose, was able to control the car, and then, of course, not hit the tire barrier, thankfully. So he's back out on the track, able to now drop back, I believe, right outside the top 15.
Take a look a little bit further up the field at John Malia in the number 8, currently scored in the 9th position. In hot pursuit of Christopher Pies there in front of him, and the car behind him is going to be Levesque, so still inside this top 10. But Malia having a pretty strong run, I would say, at least in the opening stages. He started 8th, scored in 8th, so it's always good to not lose a position, and seems to be closing in a little bit. Let's take a look at the lap times last time by. He was about 0.2 of a second slower than Pies last time, but this seems like a racetrack, and correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor, but you can have a couple of bad corners and really ruin a lap time, but it doesn't mean you're far off the pace. You just made a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah, it is one of those kind of tracks where just a small mistake here or there throughout different parts of the track is not a big loss, but too many mistakes on this track, such as going way wide in certain parts of the corner or entirely missing your braking zone, can cost you big time here. So Malia is okay with it right now, as he's still right within the viewing distance of Pies, but still, too many more mistakes. It could cost him not just the position he is in now, but also he could drop out outside of the top 10.
Yeah, there's only so many get out of jail free cards, I think, in a track like this. And again, where, a lot of racetracks that you'll see, they have some runoff area, or they have a sand trap that'll help slow the car down before it goes through a wall. This track really doesn't feature that. There's some grass, which really doesn't bleed off a whole lot of speed if you get out into the grass, and then it's pretty much Armco's all the way around with some tire barriers. So if you get it wrong, you're really going for one whale of a ride or hard into the fence. You don't have a lot of margin for error. And that's always something I think that's going to be on the drivers' minds, knowing that if they put a wheel wrong here or there, there's really not a whole lot that's going to save them.
This track can be unforgiving towards these drivers if they are not careful. Such as that's what we talked about earlier, going up through roller coaster, just missing one spot of the area could easily send you flying off into the grass and into the Armco barrier. I've seen plenty of fair share of major accidents coming down the roller coaster, even with Porsches coming through that section of the course. So these drivers have to be a little bit careful and mind their P's and Q's through that section of the course.
Got our first hashtag Ask the Booth question of the night, and if you didn't see it in chat earlier, if you want to get to know the booth better, either myself, Taylor, or even our producer Cisco, he's still a person too. Producers matter. You can put in hashtag Ask the Booth and ask us anything that you want. We have done this feature many times over on the Podium Esports Network. We'll do it here tonight as well. Happy to answer your questions, make you a part of tonight's broadcast. So the first hashtag Ask the Booth question comes from our very own Jim Hemming, and he wants to know, what is tomorrow the start of? So Taylor, I will defer to you. What is tomorrow the start of?
I'm gonna make a wild guess and say fall.
Fall. That's a pretty good guess. It's usually around the time when fall starts, I think, right? It's September. Yeah, I think that's a thing. I mean, I'll support that answer. Say tomorrow's the start of fall. But I think that he might be speaking in larger terms, perhaps within the confines of the Porsche Club of America. And as information is being fed to me furiously, thanks to our producer Cisco, he's letting me know that tomorrow is the Peach State HPDE, which is taking place at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. and also in South Bend, Indiana, also at Lime Rock Park. So there's a whole lot of events for the PCA all across the country starting this weekend, September 21st and 22nd. So if you want more information on a PCA event near you and see how you can get involved, of course, PCA.org will be the first place for you to go to check all that out. So thanks for that question, Jim. Hopefully we answered the hashtag Ask the Booth question correctly. And if we didn't, definitely let us know and check what tomorrow is going to be the start of, if not that. We'll take a look a little bit further back in the pack. 12th place, Mark Huth. Matthew Kikis there in front of him. Kikis trying to recover from his little off-road excursion he had not too long ago. Huth there in 12th, under no particular pressure. 13th place, Carlos Lopez, about 6 seconds out the back bumper. So Huth there in 12th as he works down the front straightaway to begin lap number 7.
The field has started to spread out just a little bit. Still, that battle for the 7th position between Christopher Pies and John Malia is starting to heat up just a little bit as they came out of the South Hook, are getting ready to now make their way through Snake. Malia just looking and prodding, but just can't find a way to get to the inside or outside of Christopher Pies to make the pass complete as they're now climbing up through the climbing S's and make their way to South Bend. These drivers are just showing incredible speed. I mean, look how much speed they're carrying there right there, David, and just able to make the cars stick before having to lift up just a little bit to get through the South Bend.
I tell you, I don't know how there's enough room in the car for the drivers, along with the luggage they're carrying, to make that car stick through those corners. You have to be awfully committed to the throttle and to your ability and understanding what these race cars are capable of doing. Because it's not like an oval where you see banking in most cases to help that car stick to the racing surface at those high speeds. That just tells you what a wonderful machine these Porsche 991 RSRs truly are. Just amazing manufacturing feats to put these cars on the road. They can do just mind-bending stuff on a race course like this. I look at a track like this with these big winding turns and long straightaways, and it seems like this car was absolutely built for a track like this.
Indeed, they are, and they have just shown so much dominance throughout the IMSA season with these Porsches, winning at least 5 races in each race they've started. Had a little bit of trouble at WeatherTech Raceway, but still with much time left on the clock at Michelin Road Atlanta, like we just talked about. These drivers are definitely going to put on a good show when we see them in the IMSA series. But these drivers putting on a great show for us here at VIR with the Porsche Club America drivers.
They certainly are. Malia right on the back bumper. Look at him. He's almost pushing Pies up the track. Wow, that is really, really close. Applying a lot of pressure there. He definitely gave Pies a little bit of a shot to let him know he was looking to make that pass, but can't do anything at this end of the racetrack. Just nowhere to go unless somebody makes a big mistake. So for the time being, John Malia is going to stay in line in that 8th position and continue to try and work over Christopher Pies. And we've seen now, Taylor, we have been corrected on what tomorrow is the start of, although I think Jim liked our answer because it had to do with the PCA. It's actually the start of Oktoberfest, so shame on us for not getting that right. I guess I will drink a beer tomorrow to celebrate and at least do my part. And so big thanks again to Jim for letting everybody know, and that's doing your due diligence and some community awareness. I like that, so thank you, Jim, for letting everybody know that tomorrow is the start of Oktoberfest as we get our second hashtag Ask the Booth question, Taylor. This comes from Katie Baker, and the question is, along with the fall theme, pumpkin spice or apple cider? And again, I will defer to you for the first answer.
I'm going to have to go apple cider. And I mean, I've had the privilege of having some up in Vermont during the fall, and just going to the factory and just seeing how they're made, it just tastes so good. So I'm going to have to go apple cider.
Yeah, I'm going to have to back you up on that one as well. Pumpkin spice, and I hear a agreement from Cisco as well on that. I think all three of us are in agreement here that it's going to be apple cider if we have to choose between the two. Nothing against pumpkin spice. I mean, obviously, it's an institution. Look at Malia really getting feisty here. Into one, sends it in deep. That's a good move. Good, clean pass right there. Textbook. And really nothing Pies could do other than just let it happen. He held on to that spot for a long time, TB, but Malia just too good into one, got a great toe down the front straightaway and made that pass. That is exactly how you want to do it. But again, pumpkin spice, not our thing up here in the booth, but we do appreciate that question.
To come out of the left hook, they're now making their way through Snake. Look at the gap now. Malia is starting to get over Christopher Pies now and just starting to pull away from him. And now let's see what Michelle Levesque can do with Christopher Pies. Pies still trying to stay within the toe of John Malia as they come up through the climbing S's before they head to the South Bend. but still, Malia just had a lot more speed here all of a sudden, and is now working away.
You know, we talked about the way that these cars are getting around Virginia International Raceway, and this track just seems so well suited for these Porsches with these fast straightaways and the fast left-right turns, and just how well the cars are handling. And when I think about handling, I think about the setup that's in the car, right? I mean, the setup really is what makes these cars go. And, well, if you're looking for some setup help, the setups for PCA Sim Racing right here, season number 2, are graciously provided by Tanner McCullough of Setups for iRacing. So join the Setups for iRacing Discord server for quality iRacing setups. That's setup4i.racing. Very important to make sure we highlight that. That is not just iRacing, one word, i.racing. So setup4i.racing. A big thanks to Tanner McCullough for providing these great setups to allow these drivers to maximize the potential of these Porsches around Virginia International Raceway and every other racetrack that we will be visiting. As we look at this fight inside the top 5 now, Taylor, Lisner in 5th, Polasek 4th, Leif Peterson 3rd, not too far up the road. These three have been pretty much grouped together since the drop of the green flag, but I think there's a little more pace coming out of the driver, the 92, than the two in front of him.
Yeah, looking at Lisner's lap time, he ran a 1:43.83 compared to Polasek's 8.6 and Leif Peterson's 44.27. So Lisner is on a little bit of a tear right now. Let's see if he's able to get close enough to Polasek as they're going through the climbing S's before they get to South Bend. They hit the curves, hitting their marks as best they can. Look at Lisner now. He's getting that good run before they hit the South Bend. Has to back off just a little bit. Goes a little bit wide, but is able to make it stick before they get to Oak Tree. And that's where we'll see who gets the best corner exit to be able to take the fight as they go down the back straightaway.
Not the greatest of exits there for Lisner. He was great through the S's. He was absolutely flying through there, but didn't get off of that corner just right, and I think that's going to hurt his overall straightaway speed. But yeah, definitely some good pace. When I think of Jason Lisner, I think of really the first time I saw him in season 1 up front, and that was at Sebring as he was battling with Billy Smith, and it was an absolutely fantastic battle between the two of them. Pretty much came down to the last corner on the last lap, and Lisner came flying in, really made a hard charge at it, and it was a great battle, and that's when I knew that Lisner was a pretty sporty driver, and he's holding strong here in that 5th position. Chooses not exactly to run in the draft of Polasek out in front of him. And again, we talk about drivers from season 1. Michael Polasek, no stranger here to the PCA SRS. He made his name pretty well known as well in season 1 and is back for season 2. I know he loves watching racing. He loves racing himself. Currently in that 4th position, giving it a great run.
He is doing a great job as they come towards the left hook and set up to go down the snake. Polasek doing his best he can, hit his marks, hits the apex, as now Lisner starting to get a little bit of a tear now again as they climb up through the snake and the climbing S's. Lisner now looking to the inside, but Polasek shuts the door to try to keep the run on his favor. But Lisner just looking all over, trying to find a way to get by Polasek as they're making the run up to the South Bend. And I'd say it's only a matter of time before Lisner is able to get there.
And you see just how much Lisner is able to close in through the first half of that complex, and then it seems to even out in the second half. Now they get around Oak Tree here, and again down this long back straightaway. I think Lisner's a little bit closer than he was a lap ago, but again, Polasek really good out of that corner, gets a good run down the straightaway. How much does the draft play in to Lisner? Can he reel Polasek back to him? Again, I don't think he's close enough to make a move here, but this seems like one of those situations where the smart race car driver, Taylor, is going to just spend his time filling up the rearview mirror of the guy in front of him, trying to distract him, take his focus out of the windshield, and force him into a mistake.
Yeah, but with a driver like Polasek and Lisner, both of them know not to always be too paying attention to the rearview mirror, focusing on what's ahead of them. So these drivers are doing the best that they can to just stay focused on the pavement, keep it out of the grass, and so far both of them are putting on one heck of a battle here as they're coming down the front straightaway and heading into the horseshoe once again. Lisner laying into the braking zone to try to see if he can close the gap before they come out of there.
And this is all this fighting between these two, I think, has allowed Leif Peterson in 3rd to pull away just a little bit by about a 1.5 seconds over Polasek. So Peterson not feeling any pressure. When we checked in on this battle a few laps ago, Leif Peterson was certainly a lot closer to these two, but he's able to string together a couple of really good laps and drive away from these guys. Again, no change up front. The gap between First place, William Levesque, and second place, John Koch, has grown to almost 5 seconds now. So Levesque just out there doing the things that we come to expect him to do, and putting down great lap times. He's a second faster than the group that we were just watching. As we take a look, or saw a look at Koch going up through the S's there, Levesque all by himself. And I think he's just gotten used to that. But that's why he's ascended to the great rank that he has within the world of iRacing. He doesn't need to be around other drivers to hit his marks and put down fast lap times. Some guys absolutely cannot drive well if they don't have that visual reference out the windshield for them to base their lap off of, especially on a road course. I know it plays into oval side as well, but on a road course, having that guy in the windshield to tell you and let you know where you need to be braking and hit your marks really helps a lot of guys. But for Levesque, no big deal. He's cool as a cucumber out front.
He is indeed, and seeing how he's won every single round since the beginning of the season shows that dominance that he has. And I gotta say, by the looks of things, he's gonna be bringing home another checker flag here at VIR.
Let's go a little bit further back in the pack now. Let's take a look at Cameron Leslie and Bruce Robinson. This fight for 20th and 21st. As we take a look back, that's going to be Leslie in the black and green machine, Bruce Robinson out in front in that white machine as they work around Oak Tree down the back straightaway. This has been a pretty good battle between these two. I mean, they are, not close to the lead. That's okay. They're running their own race, and this was one of the things that I always loved about season 1 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing series, that you had your pockets of battles. Even though it wasn't always for the lead, there was always great racing all around the racetrack. These guys would find the other people who were within their skill range or within their pace range, and they would have these amazing battles for an hour or so around a racetrack, and it was always very entertaining. So this is definitely one of those battles that we want to highlight and give these guys some attention, because they're putting on a whale of a battle. It's hard enough for a lot of guys just to get around a racetrack by themselves, but when you're trying to follow somebody or pass them, you're trying to do two things at one then at that point. And for Cameron Leslie in 21st, applying a lot of pressure to Bruce Robinson, trying to shake him up a little bit.
He's doing everything that he can, but Robinson being cool, hitting his marks as best that he can as they're now going through NASCAR and doing a great job of just keeping it on track. And even though he's running towards the back of the pack, he's feeling good. He's staying in front of Cameron Leslie.
Make mention here that Matthew Keekes has worked his way back up into the 10th position. So remember his little fight back up after his mistake. He's made his way back up to the 10th position as Lisner gives us another tour here as they work down the front straightaway. A little bit closer now to the back bumper of Polasek than he had been for the past few laps. I think Polasek had a couple of bad corners. Now allowed Lisner to really close in here. We've seen how good Lisner has been getting into turn 1, late on those brakes again, diving it in deep. Polasek defensive line. See him miss the apex there, lock it up just a little bit. He's feeling that pressure.
He is. Lisner now looks to the inside as they go through turn 2, then backs off, gets right back in line as they go into NASCAR. But he is right on the back bumper as they're making their way to the left hook. And this is the closest we've seen him. I mean, he is right there. He could possibly make a pass through the climbing S's before they get to South Bend if he puts enough pressure on him as they make their way to the Snake.
They got the slow car of Joseph Stifel just ahead that they're going to have to navigate around. How will that play into this? We've seen this is not a part of the racetrack where you can just hide. Stifel moves to the left. Here comes Lisner really close. He had to get on the brakes. That was Polasek being a little bit cautious and Lisner going full send, and it nearly resulted in disaster. But Lisner able to get onto the binders and stay out of the back bumper of Polasek. A little heart-stopping moment there as they work their way around Oak Tree, but look at how close Lisner is now. He's definitely going to get a toe down the back straightaway.
Now the question is, what will he do with that toe? Will he try to duck to the inside as he's weaving a little bit, trying to find a perfect line to set up before they get to the roller coaster? He's now within a car length as they go down the back straightaway. Now half a car length, now right on the back bumper. Let's see who's going to be the bravest amongst them as they hit the roller coaster. Lisner backs off just a little bit to let them go through there. No problem at all. Polasek retains that 4th position.
A good battle here again for the 4th and 5th position, and the more these two fight, that allows third place Leif Peterson to just drive away. He's opened up that gap to almost 3 seconds now between he and these two, so he's breathing a lot easier now. He's got a big gap ahead of him to John Koch, so really no fight there. This fight for 4th and 5th continues to be one of the most compelling on the racetrack. Lisner again really close into 1. No slow car this time that he's going to have to deal with. Polasek did a much better job in turn 1 there. Taylor didn't lock it up. Got into the got down to the apex just the way he needed to and opens up a little bit of a gap. So Lisner, again, we've seen how strong that 92 has been at this part of the racetrack. Is this the lap where he can make that pass?
We will have to wait and see, as he is still staying on about a car length and a half between him and Polasek as they're making their way through the snake. There's a car in the wall right there in the tire barrier. That's Matthew Mitchell. He's staying off on the racetrack to make sure to let all traffic go by before he rejoins. But still, the battle between Polasek and also Lisner is still going strong as they make the run up to the South Bend. So it seems like that gap's starting to fade away just a little bit for Lisner.
Lisner lost a little bit of time there. We'll see what kind of exit he can get off of this corner. These are really the prime time opportunities for Lisner to close in and make that pass. But, you know, this series, we've seen these guys have to be super patient to set up these passes. And still with 34 minutes or so to go, plenty of time. Don't need to force anything. I know he wants to get up to third place, leave Peterson, and start to challenge him. But I don't think he's necessarily shown, he being Lisner, shown that he's outright faster than Michael Polasek all the way around this racetrack.
No, they've both shown some strength and weaknesses on either end of the track. We see Lisner stronger on the first half of the track, but once they get to Oak Tree, we see Polasek starting to show his speed and pace through that section. So it's either one driver is strong on one end and the other's on the other. They can't seem to find that perfect lap to get by.
While we watch this battle continue to unfold between these two, Taylor, what do you think about when you hear the word spa? What do you think? I think Formula One myself, but we're not going to talk about Formula One. We're going to talk about endurance racing and bringing endurance racing here to the PCA.
Of course, we're looking for more fun here at the PCA and less of that red tape. You said just you wanted the simpler spa endurance race, so we revised the requirements to make it easier to register, form a team, and participate. On October 13th, that's a Sunday, at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, we will be seeing the Porsche 911 RSRs and the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars at the famous Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. A 60-minute race, or a 3-hour race, is going to be held live here on the iRacing Esports Network with this race. But you're probably wondering, how can I get involved? Well, the eligibility is simple. You must have at least one PCA member on the team with no region or time zone requirements. Now you're probably wondering, what are the steps to do so? Well, 1, register at PCA Sim Racing/endurance race. 2, read the revised rules and guidelines on the PDF form on the website. Then read the how-to about the teams. Finally, update and submit your team information. And finally, go racing. We're looking forward to see great racing action here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and great racing action, of course, with the famous Porsche cars that are on the iRacing service. Again, that is going to be on Sunday, October 13th, and we will look forward to seeing each and every one of you out on the track.
That is just a lovely accent that you broke out for that. I applaud you. Taylor Burris, that was really well read. I was not expecting that. Where did you learn that?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Just rolling with it. I like it. I like it. It brings a certain flair to the whole thing. And I think James Pike would be smiling somewhere if he heard that. Of course, James, usually on the broadcast here, but he's, if I'm not mistaken, he's at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca this weekend.
He is.
And
out on
so
the West Coast.
Yeah, out on the West Coast. He actually sent me a message a few days ago when he was here, local airport. Which is, oh, wow, I'll stop that thought for a second. Polasek went right through the dirt. So perhaps the tire's starting to go away on his Porsche a little bit as we're nearing the halfway point of this race. But James Pike checked in with me to let me know he was nearby on his way to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And I know he's one that's big on languages and all of that. He would have loved that accent, absolutely. So a job well done, Taylor Burris. But again, highlighting the revised format for this endurance race coming up next month should be really cool. Is Lisner out in the grass and the dirt on corner exit there. That's not going to help his straightaway speed. So this battle for 4th and 5th will stay as it is as they go as we get closer and closer to this halfway point. And next time by, we'll probably take a look at the way the whole field is running to a full midway race break. But again, this fight continues to be one of the most compelling on track.
It is, and they're still not giving up. Oh, Lisner gets a little bit loose on the entry of the roller coaster, has to back up just a little bit, but is able to keep it on the straight and narrow to stay with Michael Polasek as they go down into the hog pen once more to a very treacherous corner, but to get back out on the front straightaway. No one's going to decide to come down pit road this time but we're now approaching the halfway point here at VIR.
We got a couple of takers. John Malia has hit pit road. John Koch has hit pit road as well, along with Christopher Pies. So we're starting to see, I think, the beginning of the pit window. So I think what we'll do is we'll go through the midway race break after we're done with this cycle of pit stops, as we have a slow car up the road here that held up Leif Peterson just a little bit. As we look at who that is, that's going to be Jake Steinbrink in the number 46, currently scored in the 22nd position. A little bit off the pace here up through the S's. That definitely slowed the pace of Leif Peterson just a little bit, but it looks like a lot of drivers are going to start finding the way down pit road, Taylor. So if you're in a position like Leif Peterson, Michael Polasek, Jason Lisner, and you've seen some guys already start to come down pit road, is that your cue now to come down this next time by?
That would be the cue, unless you're like William Levesque, who's been pretty much putting on a dominant show. As close battle
that was
back
close.
Yeah, that was very close.
That's the second time we've seen a slower car sort of make for a heart-stopping moment with the leaders there. That was Steinbrink again, who just sort of dove out of the way. Didn't take down the tree, but almost took down the leaders. And now here comes Lisner on the attack, just not able to find the space to make it happen before they have to get onto the binders. That was really his best opportunity up to this point. Just couldn't capitalize.
He could not capitalize, so he has to go back to the drawing board once more and figure out a way to get by Michael Polasek as they come through hog pen once more. Let's see if they're going to come down pit road. It looks like Leif Peterson is, and here comes these two. So maybe Lisner can maybe leapfrog Michael Polasek on pit stop entry. So we're looking to see if, yes, our race leader also, William Levesque, is on pit road. So our entire top 10 is in there.
Everybody coming into their pit stalls now, and you got to be clean in, clean out. And as you get your service here. So these are really the situations where a race can be won or lost, Taylor. When you get in and out of pit road, you can make up a lot of time. You can also lose a lot of time or even incur one of those black flag penalties, as everyone is down and away. Peterson away, Polasek away. Lisner, really long stop there. He's going to lose a ton of time, as it looked like he stopped a little deep in his stall. Not sure if that's what caused the long pit stop there, but he was about 2 seconds slower than Michael Polasek. Remember, he came in right on the back bumper. Now he's got about 3.5 seconds to try and reel in Polasek now.
Yeah, and also with Polasek, with his pit stop, he was able to catch a little bit of time also on Leif Peterson. So Polasek was able to get away from this competition, but also gain a little bit of time on the driver in front of him. So I have to see what he can do to maybe break into the podium positions.
Yeah, big exchange there, big loss of time for Lisner. He's going to have to dig deep here in the second half of this race to try and reel in Michael Polasek and Leif Peterson. So for Polasek, he gets to breathe easy for a while without Lisner filling up the rear view mirror. And want to touch another side note as well. Jonathan Schum currently scored 2 laps off the pace in 24th. Been experiencing some throttle issues, some technical difficulties that has not made life easy for him. He had a little bit of a run-in with Cameron Leslie earlier in this race, and is not having himself a very good time here at VIR. So for all of you Jonathan Schum fans, not a race to remember. Currently 24th, 2 laps off the pace, as I believe everybody's basically done with their pit stops at this point. So Taylor, let's buckle up and go through a midway race break brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. As they run with more than 26 minutes now to go, take a look at they run from top to bottom. Of course, it's going to be William Levesque from pole out front, leading by about 10.5 seconds now over second place running John Koch. Leif Peterson in third. It's going to be Michael Polasek in the 4th position, with a little bit of a gap now back to 5th place running Jason Lisner, who had that 2 second slower pit stop, really cost him a lot of time. John Malia up 2 spots from 8th, currently scored in the 6th position. Kenny Brown in the number 23 machine scored in 7th. James Patak in the 8th spot. Michel Levesque, in 9th. And Matthew Kikis continues his recovery drive. Remember, he had an off from inside of the top 10. Now finds himself back in the top 10 in that 10th position.
Christopher Pies dropped back a few positions, now running in the 11th position, while Mark Hughes staying put where he is, running in 12th. Carlos Lopez doing a great job here tonight, running in the 13th position, while Charles Yao has gained some spot, started in 19th, worked his way up to the 14th position, with Clifton Lipple in tow in the 15th position. Dewey Kang certainly sitting in 16th position, with Cameron Leslie in the 00 Porsche in 17th. Bruce Robinson working his way up through the field in the 18th position, with Michael Knighton in 19th. Jonathan Waltman will round out your top 20, as he will be the first car one lap down.
Michael Evans currently scored in the 21st position, also one lap off the pace, along with Jake Steinbrink. We saw him go around earlier around Oak Tree. He's in 22nd. Matthew Mitchell scored in 23rd, 2 laps off the pace. Joseph Stiefel, after his first lap incident, is back in 24th, 3 laps down. Jonathan Schum, as we talked about, throttle issues here tonight, 25th, 4 laps down. And then 2 cars not making it to the checkered flag here tonight. It's going to be Brett Holmes in 26th and Lane McNeil in 27th, rounding out this field at Virginia International Raceway. And that's been a look top to bottom at the way this field runs right now. And it will conclude tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break with over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, visit iRacing.com today, and stay tuned a little bit later in the broadcast. Well, not too long, not too far down the road. Take a look at, we'll take a look at some trivia, some Taylor Burris trivia coming your way. So make sure you stick around to answer the trivia question. He's already got it set up. Should be a pretty good one. We'll see who's been paying attention to Virginia International Raceway, because if you have, probably have a pretty good chance at getting tonight's trivia question correct. And while we're talking about the PCA, if you want to get behind the wheel and join the fun that you've been seeing here tonight and all season long, head over to PCASimRacing.org to learn how to get started in PCA Sim Racing. Click on the 2-part series called Getting Started in PCA Sim Racing at the bottom of the website, and that will get you on your way. There's still time to sign up for the upcoming 3-hour endurance race that we talked about, and of course, season number 3. Again, visit PCASimRacing.org for all the information that you are going to need there. So if you want to do some endurance racing next month, if you want to jump into one of these Porsches and come out and battle the likes of Wilson.org, get all the information that you need.
And you know what, Michael or David, we see that the Porsche Club of America hosts many events. We actually saw that PCA is hosting a couple events this weekend. But you know what? They host over 3,500 events annually across North America, between the 10 national events and thousands of region events. There's a PCA event for every Porsche enthusiast. PCA hosts autocross events, Concours d'Elegance, driver education classes, driving tours, social events, and tech sessions. For more information, visit www.pca.org/events.
Look at this battle with Dewey Kang back in the 16th position, trying to take 15th away from Clifton Lipple. Good little battle here as they work around turn 20 onto the front straightaway. Kang falling back just a little bit as he seemed to struggle to get out of that right-hander. Not nearly as good as Clifton was able to do. Clifton, of course, representing the Peach State region down there in Georgia. And doing a good job running in 15th right now. Started back in the 22nd position, so a good 7th-place promotion for Lipple. Kang running right where he started in 16th. Both of these guys hanging on to that lead lap. The leader not too far out the rear, though. They've probably got about 20 seconds or so between them and race leader William Levesque. So with 21 minutes or so still to go. Not sure they're going to go a lap down, but might be close by the time that checker flag flies. But they're still having a whale of a battle between the two of them.
They are, as they're climbing up through the snakes, making their way through the climbing S's as they go underneath the Virginia International Raceway Bridge. Now through the climbing S's, the speeds are increasing. Dewey Kang getting a little bit of a run before they head towards the South Bend. Tries to take a peek, but can't quite make it stick too far back as they climb up towards Oak Tree before they get onto the brakes and set up to complete this corner. Nice and smooth transition for both these drivers. You see Dewey Kang get a little bit closer to the edge of the corner, but then we see Lipton just decide to break out just a little bit wide as they go down the back straightaway.
Another good run here for King. We'll see if he can close in like we watched Lisner do to Polasek lap after lap after lap. And you see King get that run with the benefit of the draft, but he just runs out of straightaway here, has to get onto the brakes, meets, gets a little bit of time back on his side, but we saw how much he struggled last time through this end of the racetrack and gave all that time back to Clifton Lippel. We'll see if he can deal with this right-hander better as he gets those right sides onto the rumble strip, back into the gas, keeps that steering wheel turned hard right to make the second right-hander sort of that double apex, if you will. Seemed to get a pretty decent run, but Lippel a better run out of there and grows that lead one more time.
So it's a great job as Dewey King just decides to go a little bit towards the bottom of the racetrack, then comes back up to set up for the braking zone here into the horseshoe, but not close enough, has to bide his time and see if he can find any way to gain a little bit more time on Clifton Lippel.
That battle continues. Let's go a little bit further up the road and talk about that driver who has been having a great recovery drive. And of course, as soon as I start talking about him, Matthew Kikis nearly drove his car into the tree. We almost had the tree shot. Taylor, we almost got it, and it was because of that commentator's curse, but Kikis in position as he tries to reel in Michel Levesque and James Patak, but Kikis getting into Oak Tree there, as you'll see on this replay. That rear end started to swing around, and he was looking at that Oak Tree.
He was indeed, and they just could not quite make it work, but was able to keep it out of there, so we'll have to wait a little bit longer to see if anybody will hit the Oak Tree.
Oh, man, it was close for him. That was about as close as you wanted to get, but, we've seen the fans talking about it in chat about the resurgence of Kikis after his little incident. I think he was running 7th or 8th, somewhere around there, fell back to about 12th, and is driven back up into the 10th position, applying a lot of pressure to the back bumper of Michel Levesque here into turn 1. As Levesque locks up the right front, here comes Kikis, almost gets into him as they both drove really, really deep into that corner. Levesque onto the grass, that's going to upset the car on exit, but Kikis showing a little bit of a restraint, didn't go for the pass.
Being cautious right there as they now go into his left hook. Doing a great job through there. Kikis just finding a way to try to put the car in the right position. Unfortunately, is nowhere to try to get by Michel as they go through the snake.
Not close enough here. We'll see what kind of speed he can hold here. Looks like there's a little bit of damage. Maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. A little bit of damage to the left rear of Michel Levesque that I can see right behind the tire. Looks like that fender's pushed in just a little bit. And if so, that might be hurting the aerodynamics of that number 93. Either that or my eyes are just playing tricks on me, and it is indeed intact. But you see how much Kikis can dive into the corner there, really attack and get a good launch off of that. That's going to allow James Patak to drive away from both of these guys. And that's sort of been a trend that we've seen here, Taylor. Two guys start fighting for a position. If there was a third driver near them, because they're not under assault and they can run their normal pace, they just drive away.
They do, and that's what they're doing right now to Christopher Pies as Kikis now tries to take a peek to the inside. Can't quite make it work as they go down the roller coaster once more. Levesque gets a little bit loose. Saw a little tire smoke coming out of his Porsche as they were coming down before they get to the hog pen. But Michel doing a great job to just hold the line and hold his position.
You can see he's really pushing his number 93 Porsche hard is Michel Levesque. He's made a few mistakes, went wide on exit there, but is able to keep good speed. We'll see now as they go into turn 1 again. Will they hit the braking zone? Will there be contact? Levesque deep into it again, locks up that right front just a little bit. Not as bad as last time. Is able to get a good launch out of 1 and set himself up to defend for the rest of this section. So again, Kikis showing pretty good restraint and patience behind Levesque. I think Kikis is faster. He just keeps catching him in the wrong spots.
And that's probably one of the biggest problems here at VIR is that you have so much speed compared to your competitor in front of you, but cannot find a way to pass. It's like you're trying to figure out where is the best place to pass when there really is not a really good place to pass when you have that needed speed to get by and that momentum on your side. So Kikis is definitely probably a little bit frustrated because he can't find a way to get by Levesque as they go up through the South Bend before they hit to Oak Tree, and just nowhere to able to get close enough. He's going to hopefully get a good run out of here to maybe, as the car is in the wall, that looks like to be Kenny Brown hit the tire barriers.
That was Kenny Brown in the 23. He was running up inside the top 10. Now will fall back to 11th, and he just lost it all by himself into the braking zone for Oak Tree. He's got the right hand, just grazes the tire barrier with the nose of the car. He had a lot of right steer into it, trying to set up, just carried too much speed. The rear end kicked out, and he's going to ship off a few positions there. So it could have been a lot worse for him. He was in the 7th position. He's going to lose 4 spots, but boy, when you lose the car like that, Lucky he didn't lose more.
Yeah, and he decided to go rear end into the tire barriers on the back half of Oak Tree. Didn't go the way we were wanting to if we were thinking about what we talked about earlier, how many cars would go into the tree. But fortunately, Kenny Brown was able to keep his nose out of there and continue on. A little bit of wing damage to his car, but still out on the racetrack.
Yeah, you see the left side of the spoiler on the Brown machine bent up as we now go back to a battle that we watched for a long time earlier in this race, and we thought maybe was just too big of a gap for it to be renewed. But look at this. Jason Lisner has tracked down Michael Polasek after a 3.5-second deficit on the backside of the pit stops. Lisner, remember, struggled to get his pit stop completed, 2 seconds slower in the stall, but he has reeled Polasek back in, and that great fight for fourth reignites itself for the second time here tonight at Virginia International Raceway.
As they go down the back straightaway, Lisner trying to see if he can get a little bit of that toe on Polasek to see if they could come up through there before they get to the roller coaster, but it's not going to be close enough for him as they make the climb up and have to hit the braking zone. You know, David, I had the opportunity of driving on this course in my car, and when coming up to the roller coaster and when you're going downhill, your body just comes to a complete drop through that section of the course. It's almost mind-boggling to see how well these drivers take it at such high speeds through that section. I had to break down quite a little bit before the braking marker that you would do on iRacing or in a professional driver would do. And it's just amazing the skill levels that they have here on this course.
Yeah, I would imagine that's a very unique feeling, perhaps why they have the 5-point safety harnesses to keep them better strapped in than a road car might. But still, I'm sure that is one amazing feeling when gravity falls away for that split second. That'll get your attention for sure. And speaking of getting your attention, Taylor, let's get the fans' attention with trivia time here tonight, VIR style. And you know, there's only one way that we do it here at Podium Esports on the iRacing Esports Network. So usually it's me calling them, but you know what? I'll have you do it tonight. So if you please would just go rustle up that little feathered friend of ours.
Yeah, he's somewhere around here in probably one of the little lakes here at America's Motorsports Resort. So ladies and gentlemen, it is time to cue the Chuck.
I like that. You might have just put me out of a job. Anyways, we'll take a look at tonight's podium trivia question. Of course, the normal rules do apply as always. Employees and contractors of Podium Esports are not eligible. Only the first response from participants will be counted. One reply per person per broadcast. So think before you type your answer. Any responses will be promptly ignored and might be ridiculed a little bit as well. So with that, we'll take a look at tonight's trivia question. And of course, staying in the theme of where we're racing tonight here at Virginia International Raceway, it's been home to a lot of different things, a lot of different types of racing, and also, well, television. A very well-known show called Top Gear came here for a very memorable episode, and anyone that's a fan of that show is probably going to have a leg up on this trivia question. So, and of course, because we're driving Porsches, this question is perfect. So big thanks to Cisco for getting this one written out, thought out, and brought to us. The question goes like this. What trim level Porsche 911 was Richard Hammond driving when Top Gear visited Virginia International Raceway? If you can answer that in chat, you will have our undying love and appreciation and affection. And of course, we'll give you a shout out on the broadcast as well. I honestly don't know. I remember watching that episode, Taylor, but I don't recall what it was. I just remember, boy, that was a good episode.
I do gotta remember what happened when he accidentally did not make one of those corners on that episode. So unfortunate that he ended up with that Porsche, but did a great job still on the track overall.
Well, you know, they say if you're not pushing, you're not trying, right? And speaking of pushing, Jason Lisner continues to pushing Michael Polasek to his absolute limit as they still fight for fourth down the back straightaway one more time. Lisner has not been able to close that gap any more than he was last time we looked at him. Matthew Kikis, on the other hand, another driver we've highlighted a few times here tonight, has found himself into the 8th position now, getting around Michel Levesque and Christopher Pies as well. And he's got James Patak in his sights for 7th. So Kikis continues this amazing march through the field after his little off-roading incident, driving that 15 for all he's worth. Very impressive. And
Kikis
looks
driving.
Yeah, we got a winner
answering
in chat.
questions.
Yeah, look at that. We got a winner in chat for tonight's trivia question. Kikis is just winning everything. Well, I don't know if he's doing trivia and driving. I will be even more impressed considering all the cars he's been passing. But Kikis won nonetheless is correct with the GT3 RS. That was the trim level of 911 that Richard Hammond was driving when Top Gear visited Virginia International Raceway. So big thanks to Kikis and everyone for participating in the Chuck the Duck trivia question here tonight. We look forward to doing it again with you one more time next Friday night as this battle continues as we look at Levesque trying to hold on to the 10th position, trying to hold on to the rear of his car as well. That thing just sliding all over the racetrack as he's attempting to keep contact with Christopher Pies there in front of him as he goes off track. I think we're getting to the point in this race with under 10 minutes to go now, Taylor. These drivers are just throwing it all on the table. There's no more holding back, no more patience. You just got to get what you can get.
You have to, especially this being the penultimate round before we go to Sebring next week, the final round of the championship. So these drivers are going to have to give everything they got in order to try to squeeze as much points as they can.
As noted there by Jim in chat, not only do you get our undying love, affection, and a shout out on the broadcast, but also a fancy PCA grill badge as well. So again, congratulations to Kikis in relation to Matthew Kikis himself. So it's just an all Kikis show here at Virginia International Raceway. At least as far as the entertainment value goes, it's all William Levesque, again, by almost 18 seconds now out in front of John Koch. So we like to try and show the leaders, but when it's an 18-second lead and there's good battles happening throughout the field, we're going to show the good battles. Of course, everyone knows and respects what William Levesque is able to do as he's putting on another clinic here tonight. But there's been some really good battles, and again, this one between Lisner and Polasek continues to be really good. And as these guys get deeper and deeper into this run, again, a couple of slow cars in front of them. That's going to be Joseph Stiefel and Cameron Leslie, not too far out the windshield. Last time they were at this part of the track, Taylor, it caused some problems for Polasek, who backed out of the throttle. Lisner didn't as much last time. We'll see what happens here.
He's not backing out of this time. I think Lisner's got a good run as they're getting ready to make the run up the climbing S's. They almost decided to go 3 wide right there. Lisner, though, takes a look to the outside, breaks it back into the back bumper of Polasek as they make the way up the climbing S's. Polasek has a little bit of a better run as they make the run to the South Bend. Great line entry in for both drivers as they climb up to head to Oak Tree.
Yeah, a little bobbing, a little weaving, and again, filling up the rearview mirror of Polasek, but it seems Polasek just will not be shook. He is all focus out the windshield. He hasn't put a wheel wrong really at all, and you have to commend him for that with immense pressure from behind. A lot of race car drivers are going to get too obsessed with that, too worried about it, miss their marks, but young Michael Polasek doing an amazing job keeping his focus where it needs to be, not making any mistakes, and holding on to that 4th position for the time being. This battle far from done, probably will come down to the wire, which appears to only be about 7 minutes away, and again on track for about 35 laps. Next time by should be about 4 laps to go or so, somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there we should see these drivers closing in on the final few laps here as they come across the start-finish line. We see Lisner now closing the gap before they get into the horseshoe. Takes a peek to the inside, can't quite close the gap as they head to the braking zone. A little bit of lap traffic in front of them once again of the 00 of Cameron Leslie as they make the run to turn 2 and NASCAR as these drivers are working their way up.
Again, another slow car in front, like you said. That's Cameron Leslie there. For the 17th position driver in that 00, that black and green machine. How will he factor in? It seems these guys seem to catch a slow car every time they go through this section of the racetrack. How aggressive does Lisner get? Got a really good launch out of the there. He's going to have a lot of speed up this straightaway right on the back bumper. Now he's going to move to the left-hand side. Polasek moves over to cover this spot. Lisner has to fall back in line. Nowhere to go. You can't go too wide through here unless you are really, really bold. Lisner lays back, sets it up for another run here at Oak Tree. Leslie's going to run wide out into the grass. He'll keep it off the racing surface. Probably worked out the best for both of Polasek and Lisner as they will get by without further incident. But Lisner, again, right on the back bumper.
This was probably his best exit out of Oak Tree, and he is right there as they go down the back straightaway. He has that slipstream. Let's see if he's going to take a look to the inside before they get there. Here he goes there. He's going to take a peek to the inside as they're going to go side by side down the back straightaway. Now, who's going to be the bravest as they make the climb up the roller coaster?
Oh boy, here's a real test of a race car driver's might. Polasek gets in deep. Lisner did a good job, but Polasek in the preferred position on the right-hander to be on the inside lane. He's going to hold that spot again. What a veteran move from Michael Polasek to give the left-hand side to Lisner and keep himself in the preferred groove for the right-hander that was coming up. That's just such expert driving, clean driving, a lot of respect between these two drivers. Lisner knows his opportunities are running out each time they go by the start-finish line there. Into turn one they go. Lisner giving it a look to the right-hand side, just cannot make it happen. Has to set up here. Polasek a little deep into the corner, missed the apex a little bit. We've seen how strong Lisner's been on corner exit, especially at this end of the racetrack.
He's got a good look as they go into NASCAR once more, then into the left hook. Let's see what he can do. He's not close enough as they're going through there, getting ready to set up for the snake. And Polasek just able to pull away once more as he clips the grass just a little bit through that section of the curbing. And here comes Lisner now as they make the run up the climbing S's.
I was about to say, I've seen more and more tire tracks around those curbs in the dirt and in the grass than I saw at the beginning of this track. These guys are using it all up. Again, so good through the left and right-handers there at high speed. Has to get on the brakes for the left. Again, keeping that gap right around 2 or 3 car lengths. That's right where he wants to be. If he can get through this corner, get another toe, see how he sets up for the long run down the back straightaway. Not as close as he was last time, Taylor, so not sure he's going to have a look or the ability to at least make a pass or an attempt to make a pass this time.
He's got to figure out something quick now as he goes down the back straightaway once more. Not as good of a draft as he got from the last lap as they're going up through the roller coaster once more. Lisner laid a little bit on the binders as they go in there, gets right close, but Polasek's able to just keep the line as best that he can and down the roller coaster once more before they hit the hog pin. This little section right here can be a little bit easy to where the car gets a little bit loose. Lisner, though, gets a good run out of there as they come down the front straightaway. He is right there on the back bumper of Polasek.
A great exit to the corner for Lisner. This is the closest he's been. If he's going to make it happen, he's got to make it happen here. Dancing all over the front straightaway to the left-hand side. Polasek's not going to give him the right lane. No way, no sir. And here we go into turn one. Lisner going to try and do a crossover here. Polasek deep into the corner. Lisner onto the gas, but the rear tires protest. They're not going to let him get out of that corner at full throttle. He's going to have to stay in line one more time as time is fleeting. About 3 minutes left in this race. Should only be enough time for another 2.5 laps for most of these drivers. But this fight for 4th and 5th has been absolutely spectacular, putting on a show all race long, and they are not done.
I gotta say, the best racing that we've seen is between these two drivers all night long. So I gotta say, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do here with these final 2 laps. Up the climbing S's once more. Lisner ahead of steam on him as they're now making the run towards the South Bend, but it's gonna be a little bit not close enough as they're now going towards Oak Tree. Polasek able to pull away once more before they hit the binders once more into the Oak Tree. No one getting close enough to hit that Oak Tree again as they come out of there down the back straightaway once more.
A good corner exit there for Lisner as he shoots to the right-hand side. Again, just trying to fake out Polasek and at least try and force him into a mistake. Want to update you on Matthew Kikas quickly. Has not gained any more position. Still in that 8th position, about a half a second back from James Patak. If there's anything that happens there, we'll shoot over to it. Lisner had a look in the left-hand side of Polasek, not able to make it stick. Polasek, again, super defensive line, and he's making it work. Lisner can only do so much. And again, it's not like we're going to see him put the bumper to him. It's not necessarily how this type of racing works, but as close as Lisner has been so many laps, you got to imagine when it gets down to the closing stage of this thing, he's going to have to give it one earnest try, something really big to try and get that spot away.
As we're now approaching the 2-minute warning, Lisner goes late into the braking zone as Polasek takes the defensive line into the bottom of the racetrack. Now washed up just a little bit, misses the second apex as they come out of the horseshoe and set up into turn 2, and then NASCAR. Lisner all over the back bumper, almost gets close enough to where he can touch the bumper of Michael Polasek as they go into the left hook once more to set up for Snake. Lisner is strong through this section, of course, all race long. Let's see what he can do as they come down Snake.
That good battle continues as we look at our leader real quick. William Levesque working his way down the back straightaway. It'll be white flag in the air this time for the race leader. We'll keep an eye on the battle for 4th and 5th as well. So 2 things to keep an eye on here. No change from Lisner, still in the wake of Michael Polasek as he has been so good through that area of the racetrack. But again, narrow racing surface, braking zones everywhere. It's just so hard to make anything happen. He's going to have 2 more shots at it as they go down the back straightaway for the second to last time. Not a good corner exit for Lisner there. We saw when that onboard camera a little bit earlier in this lap, Taylor, how much work that Jason Lisner was doing, sawing on that steering wheel left and right. This is not an easy drive.
It is not. He is giving it everything that he's got here on this track to get by Michael Polasek, and he is if he can get by him, he is a hard-earned position. He's been all over the back bumper of Polasek since the drop of the green flag as they go into hog pen for the penultimate lap. And one more time, can Lisner find any way to get by Michael Polasek as the white flag waves for them?
These are the types of moments that sim racers absolutely dream of. A great battle on one all the way around track, lap after lap. Lisner looks right, looks left, deep into the braking zone in turn one. Polasek defends well. Lisner sliding, holds onto it, flirting with that grass in the center of the corner, loses some time there. He's going to have to gather back up. He knows he only has a few more opportunities to take this fourth position away from Polasek. Polasek has defended it so well, lap after lap. Have to give him a lot of credit for how well he's held onto that car.
It is incredible Polasek drive he has here, holding on to that fourth position as they go through the snake, cuts through the curbing just a little bit and a little bit of grass, but is able to keep it out on the track as they make the run up the climbing inches for the final time. Lisner, this is where he shines the most. Can he do anything before they get to the south bend?
Keep an eye on that fight. Nothing doing there. Seems to be well in hand. Let's take a look at your leader, William Levesque, for the final time. Out of the right-hander and onto the front straightaway, and he's going to keep that streak alive with a huge margin of victory. William Levesque is going to go back to victory lane tonight at Virginia International Raceway. A job well done for him. Wire to wire, that 144 was out front as we cut back to the fight between Polasek and Lisner. Lisner now down the left-hand side, down the back straightaway.
He's going to give it everything he's got once more. One final push as they go up the roller coaster. Lisner laid into the braking zone. Can he make it work?
Oh, no!
He clips the grass. He's got to lose a lot of time right there. Michael Polasek will pull away once more, but got to give a round of applause for Lisner to trying to make it work on the final lap.
He absolutely sent it. That was the big move. I asked about it. When is he going to finally make one big earnest move to try and take that spot away? He really got in there deep and could not get the car woed down, went out through the grass and hands the position back over to Michael Polasek. But what an entertaining battle. Just a thriller between Michael Polasek and Jason Lisner. And in the end, it's exactly as we saw him run for much of this race. Polasek fourth, Lisner fifth, as everyone else will finish out their laps. And while they do that, talk briefly about just the dominating performance here from William Levesque. Again, another win for him, nothing new there, but he wasn't even challenged. I mean, I know he's had some big wins, but this might be the biggest of them all.
I gotta say, every time he's won, it's been a big win and a big dominating performance. I mean, almost 20 seconds between him and John Koch. So I don't think anyone can stop Levesque.
Seems to be pretty unstoppable. One more race to go if he can make the perfect season. Oh, what a claim to fame that would be. We're going to step aside for a commercial break here. On the other side, we'll come back, take a look at the full field rundown, and try and talk to some of our top finishers. You're watching coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series tonight from Virginia International Raceway with Podium Esports on the iRacing Esports Network.
Green flag back in the air. 2 more laps to go.
8 drivers. 4 races. These are the moments that define champions.
Zach Novak, final time to the start-finish line, takes the checkered flag and wins.
Who will reach the peak? The battle begins now. Let's go playoff racing!
Of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway with Podium Esports on the iRacing Esports Network, the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. Round number 6, the penultimate round of season number 2 is in the books. Let's take a look at the way they came across the line after an hour of very intense racing. And surprise, surprise, no surprise, it was William Levesque the first across the line by nearly 20 seconds. A perfect 6 for 6 on the season. Can he make it 7 next week? We'll find out then. John Koch, great run, ran by himself for much of it, finishes exactly where he started in second. Leif Peterson rounds out the podium. Michael Polasek holds on for that 4th position, well earned after the battle with Jason Lisner in 5th. John Malia finishes in 6th. James Patak in 7th. Matthew Kikas, great recovery drive in 8th. Christopher Pies 9th. And Michel Levesque rounds out the top 10.
Kenny Brown will come home in the 11th position with Mark Huth rounding out top 12 and the last car on the lead lap. Carlos Lopez will come home in 13th with Clifton Lipple in 14th. Dewey Kang will come home in 15th position, followed by Charles Yao in 16th. Cameron Leslie will come home in 17th. Jonathan Waltman, 18th. Bruce Robinson will come home in the 19th position, and Michael Neiden will round out your top 20.
Michael Evans comes home in the 21st position. Jake Steinbrink, 22nd, 2 laps off the pace. Joseph Seifel had a little bit of an incident on the first lap, and he did not recover from that. 3 laps down in 23rd. Matthew Mitchell, 15 laps off the pace in 24th. Jonathan Schum in 25th. Brett Holmes, 26th. And Lane McNeil rounds out the 27-car field. Interesting to note, the top 5 finishers all finished exactly where they started. Tells you the importance of starting position here in this series, and we'll talk with the man that got himself another win for the 6th time this season, William Levesque, I should say. Getting you confused. You have to apologize, or I have to apologize, I should say, since this is my first time in season 2, and I know there's 2 of you, but you've been the dominant one far and away. 22nd victory at Virginia International Raceway, William. You're making it look awfully easy. You'd think maybe you'd peel it back a little bit to not win by 20 seconds. It's a little bit demoralizing for these guys after a while.
Well, the problem there is if you start slowing down, you lose your groove, and that's where you start making mistakes. So you're better off just keeping your pace that you're comfortable with, I guess.
Well, you had an amazing pace. Obviously, you started on pole. A good run into turn 1. It seems that you were relatively unchallenged and didn't have much to worry about. So then at that point, you know what to do. You're a pro at this stuff. So when you set up for an hour-long race at a track like VIR, which is very long, has a lot of turns, very technical, how do you keep yourself disciplined enough to not make any mistakes?
Well, first off, John had really good pace at the start. So congrats to him, because I was maybe not pushing 100%, but I was trying to go pretty fast, and he still kept up until his tires went off. But yeah, I mean, VIR, yeah, it's not easy, and you always need to keep yourself a little buffer on the braking zones and some of the more dangerous corners, Oak Tree especially, and the braking zone after the back straight. But yeah, if you do that and you keep focus as good as you can, it's possible to not wreck, I suppose, which I didn't manage in the test race. I struggled a lot there for some reason, and today was fine, so.
What do you think it was between that test race and tonight? Obviously, some lessons learned if you didn't keep it on track, but did you put a lot of time into practice between then and now? What was it that was allowing you to take what, in your words, was not the best experience and turn it into a result like this?
Well, I tried a different brake bias setting there, and I wasn't as focused. And there's obviously it's a test race, so it doesn't mean anything. So it's subconsciously, I suppose you're not focusing as much. So all of that probably played in my struggles there. But I didn't run any laps since then. All of this season, my practice was the test race and the practice before in the server. So. But yeah, I mean, all of these combos I've done before, so to say I don't practice is a bit of an overstatement because I already have time on those combos. So, but yeah, just focus in the race, and yeah, I suppose it's one of my strengths. I always do better in the race than in practice.
Well, I suppose since the race is the one that pays the points and is the most important, better to be there as well. So 6 races in, 6 victories to your name, 1 more to go next week at Sebring. Championship seems to be well in hand. What's more important to you, going a perfect 7 for 7, winning the championship, or doing both?
Well, this being a 6 out of 7, I've won the championship actually now, officially. So I guess for Sebring, it's going to be all about bragging rights to say I've clean swept the entire season. Didn't manage to do the qualifying sweep, but I guess we'll go for the race sweep.
If you manage to pull it off and get 7 victories and 7 starts en route to a championship in the series, where would that rank in your overall racing resume?
It's hard to say because I've done quite a lot through the years. So I couldn't say really where it would rank. I don't really go by that.
Fair enough. We'll have to all find out next week at Sebring International Raceway if you can pull it off. If I'm a betting man, and I'm not, I would say you have a pretty good shot at it. But before we let you go, William, as always, we'll let you give a shout out to everyone who's a part of your team and helps propel you to victory here tonight.
Yeah, I see the guys at NX Racing and our sponsors SimiCube, SimLab, and V Racing. And also shout out to my dad who got a top 10 in this race. So congrats to him.
He certainly did. A good 10th place finish for him, exactly where he started, and a good race all throughout. Well, William, congratulations for the 6th time on your win. We'll look forward to seeing you go for a perfect 7 next week at Sebring.
All right, thanks.
That is your winner, William Levesque, and from him, we will transition to 2nd place finisher, getting some high praise from the race winner, John Koch, standing by with Taylor Burris.
Here with John Koch, and John got a little bit of nice praise from William Levesque, saying that you had some great pace at the start of the race. But tell us how your race went overall.
That's really nice, and congratulations to William. He was able to hold me off long enough, and basically what happened, I was not too far in pace behind him, but I just the tires start wearing a little bit, and my pace slows down quite significantly compared to Williams, and it's pretty difficult to keep that consistency throughout the race. So props to William for that.
Now, as we move on to the final race of the season of Sebring, and then of course we have our big endurance race. How comfortable do you feel about taking the fight to William Levesque, seeing if you can try and break that record?
You know, I'd love to give it a try. I'd love to give him some better competition, make things a little bit more interesting for him. It's going to be very difficult, but Sebring is a track that I've raced before, not this car specifically, but I've done a lot of racing in mostly the Porsche Cup car, so I do have some experience there versus here at VIR and at COTA, so hopefully I'll be able to give him a little bit more competition.
All right, but before we let you go, John, who is that you would like to thank that helps you race from week to week?
I'd like to thank all the guys at PCA that make this possible, Doug and Jim and Mike and everybody, the race control guys, everybody. And also I'd like to thank my dad for getting me into cars, for getting me into Porsche specifically. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, John, we look forward to seeing you at the next round at Sebring, and congratulations on finishing in second place.
Thank you.
And
All right, there's
Jake,
John. Yes, thank you, Taylor, and some good words. And anytime you can get a shout out from the race winner, I think that's a job well done. We'll hear from third place finisher now. Bring him in here, Leaf Peterson. Leaf, congrats, third place finish, right where you started, and you got to watch a pretty good battle from the rearview mirror, I think, between Polasek and Lisner. You didn't have too much to worry about yourself, so when you're in that little no man's land, if you will, with Coke too far up the road and a great battle behind you, how do you keep your eyes out of the rearview mirror from that great battle to stay focused and stay on track?
Yeah, I think my eyes were on the F3 box more than they were on the road ahead of me.
It was an amazing battle between the two of them, but I think that battle between those two is what allowed you to pull away and not be pretty much caught up in that. And so when you're in that situation again with fast guys behind you, but you're running a really good pace yourself, an hour long, and I asked the same question of William: how do you keep that discipline to not lose focus?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You just have to hit your marks, not try to drive fast. That's when you make mistakes. Don't try anything new. Drive what you practiced.
That's a very good way to look at it. That's all you young aspiring racers out there. Take note of what he just said. That is a very good perspective to share. It's been a good season up to this point, I think, for you. One more race to go on the books next week at Sebring. What is your outlook heading into that final race? I know William has his eyes on a perfect sweep of the season, going 7 for 7. Do you think you have anything you can throw at him to disrupt what otherwise would be a perfect season for him?
No, I'm just hoping he doesn't catch any bad luck and get any contact. So I'd like to see him do achieve that mark just because he deserves it. He's a pro after all. In iRacing lingo, we call him an alien.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's definitely an alien when you can go out and win by 20 seconds over somebody who's pretty fast in their own regard. But, again, third place finish for you up on the podium. How would you rate your overall season up to this point? We've had some fantastic racetracks, and for you to come home in a third spot like that in a field like this, how does that feel to you?
Well, it feels great. Finally, getting a couple podiums here because I had a really slow start. Of course, I had that off track in turn 2 at Laguna Seca, so that was my drop. And then I had poor fuel strategy on the next 2 races. But I still managed to pull it together and get a 4th and 6th. So yeah, and today I don't know how I ended up on the podium because Lisner was super fast in practice all week. Patak was faster in practice. Polisek's always fast. So I just got lucky with a good qualifying lap and was able to get away. Maybe they made a mistake on the first lap and I just let them battle behind me and just try to hit my marks.
Well, it all worked out pretty well for you as you get a podium finish to your credit. And before we let you go for tonight, I'll give you the opportunity to say hello and thank you to everyone who's a part of your team and empowers you to that third place finish.
Yeah. I want to shout out to Billy Smith, my Maverick region members and instructors, Hill Country, Lone Star, coming to Schnellfest. Immediately after this, I'm driving to Austin.
Very cool. We wish you safe travels and have a lot of fun out there. And we'll look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight at Sebring.
Look forward to it. Thank you, guys.
There you go. Third place finisher, Leif Peterson. And let's bring in the fourth place man who is part of that great battle that we saw. And that's Michael Polasek, who had that amazing battle with Jason Lisner. Mike P., I got to say, my first opportunity to see you here in season 2. Certainly a friend of Podium Esports, and we see you around quite a bit. But I enjoyed, from where I was sitting, that battle that you had. But tell us about it from your seat.
That was probably some of the most, I don't know what's the word for it. Terrifying, I think, is the word for that. Racing that I've ever had. With Lisner just closing the gap after I jumped him in the pit cycle. Once he was right behind me, I was just going to do everything I could in my power to keep him back because I knew he had the speed over me. But I had the track position, and knowing how hard it is to overtake around VIR, I said, well, if he wants the position, make him work for it. And I just played it safe going into that last lap. And yeah, and I'm really, really happy that worked out in the end.
So let's talk about that last lap. down the back straightaway. He gets a good exit, gets to your left-hand side, and is actually about a half a car ahead of you before the braking zone, as far up along he'd been all race long. What were your thoughts at that point? Did you think he was going to make the corner, or did you know that he was carrying too much speed?
That was a roller coaster of emotions in maybe about 5 seconds or something like that. Because I braked relatively early, like I've been doing all race. And he heard my spotter say clear, so I was like, damn it, this is race over. And then I saw him go off slightly. I'm like, maybe I can pull this back. Maybe I can pull this back. And once I got past him, I was like, oh my God, it's finally over.
I think I could hear the sigh of relief from all the way out here in Arizona. Just an amazing battle between the two of you. So much respect shown between the two of you. I think he cut you a couple breaks. I think you cut him a couple of breaks. And that was just, that's the way it goes in this series. And that's what I've loved about the racing in this series. So I'm glad I got to see it. I'm glad everyone that watched here tonight was treated to that battle between you and Jason. And well, since we got you up here, we'll give you the opportunity to say hello and thanks to everyone who's a part of your team, powering you to a 4th place finish tonight at Virginia International Raceway.
All right. I'd like to say thank you to my sponsors, Grand Prix New York Racing, everyone in the PCA, everyone that's watching in the northern New Jersey region. I really hope that battle put a lot of smiles on everyone's faces. I'd like to thank GT Hub and Tyler King for, once again, the amazing paints he's been making for all our cars. And I'd also like to thank my family and Grand Prix New York again for all the support they've been putting in and helping me advance as a driver.
There you have it. 4th place finisher tonight, Michael Polasek. Mike P, you put on one whale of a drive, my man, and you certainly put a smile on everybody's face. I promise you that. Mission accomplished there. So good job. Look forward to see one more round next week at Sebring, and until then, rest up. I'm sure you're probably in need of it a little bit after that battle.
All right. Thank you very much.
There you go, Michael Polasek there. And TB, you heard it from these guys. Everyone pretty happy with their runs. A lot of praise distributed amongst the top 3 and 4 drivers. And everyone seemed to be pretty satisfied with this, even though, again, it was the same song and dance. William Levesque out there just beating the brakes off these guys, but they take it in stride. And that's what I think is so special about this series. But as we come out of VIR, what are your takeaways from what we saw here?
We see once again William Levesque putting on an absolute dominating performance, but also we saw some other drivers show some quite exceptional talent. We saw Michael Polasek holding off Jason Lisner pretty much the entire race, watching those two battle all race long from the drop of the green flag. And then we saw John Koch and Leif Peterson also staying in the consistency. We saw Leif Peterson at the start of the season not showing the best of speed, but by the end of the season, we see him as a podium finisher and top 3 runner all race long. So all I got to say is I look forward to seeing what happens at Sebring.
And speaking of what's coming up next, I want to remind you of what's coming up this coming week and weekend on the Podium Esports Network. Sunday night, we will head to the USA International, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, kick off the broadcast for the iRacers Lounge Podcast Oval Series. That'll be Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, over on the Podium Esports Network on Twitch. 1 week from this coming Sunday, September 29th, will be the other series featured at Podium Esports. That's the Stock Car Challenge Series, going live from Interlagos, the Cup Cars on road courses. That's what that series is all about. So they'll head down south of the equator there, down to Interlagos, which should be a lot of fun to see how they battle it out. The Monster Energy Cup Series cars at Interlagos should be very cool. Other events coming up, October 5th, the Esports Drift Association from Mugello. That'll kick off at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then October 12th, so a little bit further out in October, the Gaming Drift Series from Autopolis, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, all on the Podium Esports Network, which you can find at twitch.tv/Podium Esports. And that will wrap things up for us from Virginia International Raceway tonight. And we want to thank you for tuning in wherever you joined us from, right here on the iRacing Esports Network. For my partner in the booth, Taylor Burris, for the Windy City Wizard, our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, and everybody over at Podium Esports, I'm David Schildhouse saying congratulations, race winner William Levesque, and we'll see you next week at Sebring.